they actually found out they were being really unhappy, and they started a completely new career path in entrepreneurship.
Beautiful. And I believe this is the main thing when it comes to coaching, is just building the trust. Good morning. Today we have something different. Today the interview is going to be in English because we have our guest is from France. Good morning, Beatrice.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning, Peter. Good, thanks.
I'm not going to introduce you. You're going to introduce yourself.
Okay.
But before we start, let's chat. Okay. So Beatrice, please let us know who you are. I would love people to know who you are.
Okay. So my name is Beatrice. I am currently a coach, specialized in emotional intelligence, but I actually have a very different background. So I have a background in research and academia.
Wow.
I have a PhD in microbiology.
Wow.
And I was studying specifically global warming in the Arctic. So that was a really exciting topic.
Okay.
And I've been in Dubai for almost 8 years now. And I grew up here. So I'm a typical Dubai expat kid. I was here all of the 90s.
Okay, likewise. I was born and raised here as well.
Really?
Yeah,
No
so
way.
I know
Okay.
really well.
Yeah.
What made the change? So what made you change from research in the Arctic Circle and coming back and pursuing a coaching career?
Yeah, it was a big switch. So it happened for various reasons. For personal reasons, I moved away from my job and had my first child.
Okay.
And while I was on maternity leave, I kind of started seeing how relationships were evolving and how I felt like I needed some extra skills to manage those relationships.
Okay.
So I started looking into emotional intelligence specifically, and I found it was kind of mind-blowing. It was like the key that was missing to understand these evolving relationships.
Okay. And who do you actually work with? So when we say coaching, is it like performance coaching? Is it like personal coaching? What kind of coaching is it?
Yeah, I do a mix. So I do mainly personal coaching and some corporate coaching and workshops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do story time.
Sure.
So story time. I would love to hear some stories when it comes to coaching, especially that you're working with people one-on-one and you hear a lot of stories. So without mentioning names, give me a very funny story through your coaching career and a very heartwarming story that actually something that touched your heart.
Okay. Let me think. A very funny story.
Yeah. One of the sessions.
Yeah. I think probably one of the funniest one was somebody who came to me in really need of coaching. They really wanted to do it, and basically after our first session, they were done. They had one of these major aha moments.
Okay.
So we started the session and we wanted to make a plan of what was going to go on during the coaching program. Okay. And they had such an aha moment that it turns out they were set. Their mindset shifted and they no longer needed that coaching.
So
they were on a new path.
And no action plan, no recovery.
Little bit, but it released all the things that they thought. They completely changed their expectations and they were done. They found kind of the solution, they found their thing, and they were on their way.
Beautiful. And something that touched your heart, something that an actual impact or change that you made that touched your heart.
Let me think back. Honestly, almost every single one touches my heart.
Beautiful.
That's why it's hard to choose. I think it was the one client who was really struggling in their career.
Okay.
And they were considering a massive career change or even just a complete, going into entrepreneurship. And they really struggled for a while. They were struggling with self-confidence. And it took a while to build the relationship. Okay. There was quite a lot of resistance and, they weren't sure. But once the relationship was built and the trust was built, they really kind of opened up and found what they actually really, really wanted to do. They were able to cut the noise, deep dive inside, and they left everything. So it was like a complete, 180. Yeah. They stopped everything they were doing. They actually found out they were being really unhappy. And they started a completely new career path in entrepreneurship.
Beautiful. And I believe this is the main thing when it comes to coaching, is just building the trust. Yeah. If that person feels that I can trust that person, I will open up, I will tell him everything. And then together we can come up with a solution. Yeah. And that would take me to the next question. If you can give advice to someone who's going to start career in coaching, first of all, let's discuss two things. What kind of people can enter that field? Okay. So if I'm thinking about pursuing coaching, are there any characteristics or personality traits that should be in that person to become a successful coach? And the second thing, what advice would you give that person? How can they start their career in coaching?
Okay. That's a great question. So what are the characteristics? I think people feel it naturally. You have to be naturally inclined towards others. Already kind of be, a listener, have good listening skills, even though everything can be practiced and trained.
Okay.
But I think from the start, you have to have this kind of, heart-to-heart connection with others, quite a lot of empathy. Not too much, but that's also something you can train. But I would say just this feeling, it's a feeling from the inside, because everything else you will learn in the coaching, training and practice. But really you need to have this want to go towards others, to hold a space for them, to build that trust. That is the basic foundation. Okay. Because like you said, without the trust, there is no conversation possible. And then everything else you will need, you learn as you do throughout the training.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah. And how long does it take? So let's say if I want to start to become a coach, how long will it take? Yeah,
it's very variable. But if you follow something serious that is, going to lead to an accreditation, it takes at least a good part of a year.
Wow.
Not full time, but there will be different modules. There's different ways of doing. There's so many coaching programs out there. A lot of them are amazing. But it will take, some serious modules for a few weeks, multiple times. And at the end of that year, you can probably go for the accreditation.
Beautiful. Okay.
And then there's different levels, obviously.
Of course. Question. Face-to-face coaching, virtual coaching?
That's a tricky one. I find there's advantages to both.
Okay.
So I started going into coaching just around COVID. So most of the coaching was done online. There was some here in person, but a lot of it was online. And that was beautiful for those exact reasons. Why we couldn't really move much. It was difficult. There is something great, especially to build that trust when the person is in their own space and they feel comfortable. Sometimes that helps to build that trust and they feel comfortable opening up and the coaching, develops nicely. I do probably prefer in person if possible, because there is something that you cannot replace when two people are sitting and facing each other. There's an energy exchange that happens in real life that doesn't happen in
the virtual session.
In the virtual session. And a lot of the coaching is also reading what is not being said. So the body language, the kind of what's not being said. And it's a little bit harder sometimes to grasp that online than when you're facing somebody.
And do you sometimes find resistance for people coming virtual, opening their cameras? Do you find those kind of resistance, especially in our region?
I almost find it less than in person sometimes. I feel like the first meeting is somehow more intimidating in person, and there's a little bit more resistance, a little bit more shyness, or
it's the chemistry call day.
Then the chemistry call is always online, so I guess my personal experience is that online people are more comfortable because they're in their own space, and they've done it now so many times. Since the pandemic, it's half the things are online.
Beautiful. Have you done any training when it comes to classroom training?
Yes.
Okay, story time again. Classroom training, because this is where all the magic happens and all the funny stories come from. Give me again 2 stories from the classroom. One super funny and one heartwarming.
Okay.
Not even just heartwarming. If you have any kind of emotion when it comes to the story, so let's say an angry story or a heartwarming story or something that was embarrassing, or feel free to tell me any 2 stories that you think that was sharing.
There's, like you said, heartwarming. There are many instances. One I can think of now was a pretty big workshop. And what I like to observe is, people's attitude when they enter the workshop. Their body language. Are they excited? Did they sign up? Or were they kind of told to go and they're kind of sitting like this? And I remember one time there was one person in particular who did not seem like they really wanted to be there. And they were quite close body contact and, kind of show me why that I'm not wasting my time, basically.
Yeah.
And seeing the evolution. So seeing that close in the beginning and the person or how they were at the end of the training, it was like, like a flower opening up. They completely, the resistance at some point broke. Yeah. So that's what you're trying to do, right? You try to break gently that resistance. They became engaged and they left and they were one of the most, thankful, and they had so many learnings from those sessions, and they were really, really very excited and grateful to put those into practice.
Beautiful. Funny story.
I think the funny stories is especially, there's always kind of, in those classroom, there's always the clown or the joker or who are, making it laugh or, that's also very nice. So it's a bit like in school, like when we were in school, you have those different personalities and you will have those who connect and they make you laugh and they make everyone laugh. And these are actually really important elements because they help the atmosphere to relax for everyone.
And you know what? The problem is, like, I've attended a lot of classes. A lot of times the class clown is actually the smartest. Yeah. And he's the best performer.
Yeah.
It is double personality. Like he's there. He's bringing joy to the table, but at the same time, he's actually performing. He's not there to disrupt or destroy the workshop. He's actually complementing the workshop. So I love those class clowns, to be honest. Okay, let's talk about something different now. Let's talk about technology and how technology is affecting or impacting the training world. How is it complementing the training world? What kind of technologies do you see adding value, and what kind of technologies do you see are going to deteriorate and it's just a phase and it's not going to continue?
I think it's the word you said, complementing. So any technology, as long as it's complementing the coaching or the training, is amazing, but it will never replace it. And as soon as you try to replace it or, to kind of do less work, to make it easier on yourself by delegating to the technology, for example, AI, you really lose that value and that human something that makes it special. So I remember attending a seminar and it was about AI and coaching, and there's so many things that it can do. It can take notes for you, it can summarize your session, and there's all the questions about ethics because the sessions are always confidential. So how do you work around those? And they're also really powerful tools. So I think we're just kind of, at the tip of the iceberg, starting to understand we can do so much with technology. We can do so much with AI. And we really have to be clear with the boundaries and use it within a very set framework.
Okay.
I think it really has a lot of potential, but never to replace, only to add and to complement.
And to complement and add value. I always believe that technology makes the experience better. So what happens is, especially with using VR, for instance, it's all your senses are blocked. And in the VR game, you're actually learning. And people actually... Like the feedback we get is they actually remember what we have told them on the VR device, but still the human touch is not there. So it is an amazing tool to be there, but humans will not be replaced when it comes to the training world. Last thing I want to ask you, do you have any advice for people in their career? Okay, so if people want to improve in their career when taking trainings, doing coaching, what kind of advice would you give them to progress in their career and to grow? General advice. I think the most important thing is to work on your relationship with yourself and your self-awareness. I know a lot of training or a lot of people, who want to advance in their career or do better performance. They look at the outside skills. What can I do to do better, or what can I add? But it's really about, kind of turning inwards and looking at really what are your strengths, what skills you can develop. Finding those answers on the inside rather than on the outside is a sure way to make sure that you will then be aligned. But how will they know if these skills are connected to their job? So when we do we do the mapping, but for them to understand, okay, let's say I work in procurement, okay, and I want to progress in procurement. I want to become the director of procurement. What kind of skills am I supposed to acquire? Is this something that they can come up with, analyze, or HR will tell them or training will tell them?
I think this is where, I'm biased, I'm a coach, but working with somebody like a coach is really important because it gives you that space to self-reflect and also to see your blind spots and to have somebody who is trained and who will help guide you and kind of walk along your side. So you do need that third person who is objective to help you kind of put your skills and your things in perspective of your goal or your career goals or your advancement.
And can they do assessments? Like, let's say,
of course,
not just cognitive or personality assessments, like actual career assessments to understand the level they're in and where they're supposed to be?
Yeah. Used in the right context, these can be amazing and can give a lot of clarity. I like to believe that any assessment is a good starting point for a conversation.
Okay.
It's not usually a diagnosis, so it shouldn't just be left at that. And then the client has these results, and then go and do your thing. It works really well with somebody like a coach to work with them. Okay, we have these results. What do we do with them now? Where are you today? Where do you want to be tomorrow? And systematically kind of plan that out.
Beautiful. Beatrice, thank you so much for your time. That was very insightful.
Thank you, Peter.
Cheers. Have a
Thank
good day.
you.
Another one?
Yeah.
Thank you.